there's all kinds of things going crazy with this. Like I saw, because like you can see when somebody joins in.
Uh-huh.
And after you did it, it was like doing crazy things. There's like looping sounds and whatnot.
Hmm.
And I was like in a little bit of a panic. It's like, what's going on? Is this going? I can't tell if it's going. Okay, it's going. All right. It's getting crackly.
Yeah.
I still don't know if it's the water making the noise.
Is it bubbling ever so slightly?
I don't know, I can't see it from here. It's probably bubbling a little bit, but it usually goes like this for a while before it.
Yeah. This is actually perfect matcha bubble, I think. This soft.
Soft bubbles.
Yeah, the soft like crackle.
What was that?
There's a honk.
That means my email I sent my.
So is this going right now?
Technically, but it's unlisted. And then I'll make it listed. It's just I want to make sure that it's actually working here too. Where the crap is my email?
You want me to hold off on this or do it now?
You can go for it now.
Alright. So I'd say that's probably just about the right temperature of water for the matcha.
So I was just texting Piper for her to tune in to let me know if
Oh, I didn't.
something's wrong.
I should have told Madeline to try and tune
Well,
in. Gosh dang it.
I can send you the link.
Do it.
Because right now that's the only way you can see it. Is if you have the link. Otherwise. Can you make it? Yeah, you can. I don't know why it's so weird in here about that. Oh, yep, Piper says hello.
Hello, Piper.
Piper, can you hear us? Maybe. Oh. I don't feel like doing that right now. Wait, what? I didn't want to do that. I don't know how to undo that.
How to do what?
I accidentally closed the little chat box. It kind of doesn't matter that much. Oh, right here. Hey.
Hey.
We have a whole 2 people watching.
Madeline, can you hear us?
Probably Piper can hear us.
We need some chat engagement.
Late night.
What?
Does it?
I can't see the chat very well. What does it say?
Late night crew.
Late night crew.
There we go. We need to figure out a better way to do this if we do this. Oh my gosh, that's annoying. then also there's a question of are we loud enough? Here, Casey, talk into the microphone.
Hello.
I'm gonna watch the levels.
Okay. I'm purposefully lowering my voice for kind of like a late night radio kind of thing, you know, like next we're gonna play some jazz that you've never heard of.
Play some world music.
Yeah. This is KBYNQ. Delarus late night radio.
All right.
I gotta see, what are they saying?
It's so hard to see because the stupid little heart thing in the corner.
I'm
Can
sorry.
I make this wider?
Oh, that
Maybe
you did. I also can't see it just because I'm like on the other side of the
I
room
know.
from the screen.
Well,
Oh, volume is good. Okay. Oh, I can see it from here.
okay, yeah, that's a good spot. So on this computer I only have one monitor hooked up. It'd be nice you could make the chat really huge on my coding monitor. For what good that does for the probably no more than 2 people that would ever watch this.
Yeah.
So
Nice. A thing.
something's happening.
Okay. All right.
All right. Volume's good. Everything seems pretty good.
Thanks for bearing with us there, Madeline and Piper.
Can we
Start with a prayer.
making sure that works? Oh, now it's hiccuping. I don't know why it does that.
Well, are we going to do anything with the screen?
I don't know. That's kind of more of an experiment.
That's the camera's fault, right?
Yeah, that's the camera doing that.
Okay.
Can you hear the kettle?
I'm making some tea.
Here, I'll send it to Tom too. Oh, which one's the real number?
That's right. I have Tom's fake number too.
Oh my gosh.
I like this audience thing. Like I said, it's forcing me to put on a facade. Just kidding. Once we chat, I will unfacade.
Gosh dang it.
Oh my gosh.
I think, okay, this has got to be the right one.
Oh, look. Piper already sent it to Tom because
Oh, there you go.
I kind of wondered. I just thought maybe Piper didn't have Tom's number, you know.
I have 2 Tom numbers, and I know one of them is false.
I know. Well, because you gave me the 2 Tom numbers, like, it was like 2 years ago. I texted him about something, and I was just like, well, I guess he didn't. Oh, Madeline. The harassment. Just let me have my late night DJ voice. Part of it is I'm just so tired. Little kids.
I feel like I'm sitting too far away from things. And I'm sitting on a huge couch.
Okay. I don't know how this should go either.
The whole point is we don't know what we're doing. And
But I'm going to make some tea ASMR style, if you can hear that light, gentle crackling of the tea kettle as it starts to bubble. But
you can always like turn the microphone to it.
that's true. We'll just turn into an ASMR, like, and now I'm scratching it with the whisk. Just kidding, I'm not doing that. I'm combing my hair. Can you hear it? All right, I think that's
There's a high-pitched noise going. Like a ringing? See, this is why we need Tom here.
At least Tom's there.
I'm trying to... I don't know. Can I hear it? Hold on. Now I feel like I'm having like auditory hallucinations. I'm trying to hear a ringing, and I don't know if I am or not.
Madeline, do you hear the
Oh, I
ringing?
hear something.
Oh.
Hold on. What is that? I am not hallucinating. Oh, you know what? I bet it is. Hold on, let me fix this.
It's that button that says ringing noise.
Can I? Oh my gosh. Now it's driving me nuts that I can hear that. I have headphones on. It's just I was numb to the sound, I think. What is that? I am not an audio tech, so I have no idea how to deal with this. It's not bad while we're talking. Yeah, I have a noise gate on, and I'm not sure what the best levels to have, because if the stuff's too low, you'll hear that ringing when we're not talking. Now you can probably hear the ringing. Can't hear it now.
In the meantime.
Oh, I guess. Okay. This is so exciting.
I'm snooping around.
Oh,
I found some incense. We should put this on screen just as like a visual thing, just to watch.
The incense.
Watch the smoke wisp around.
I mean, I guess I don't really have anything important drying in here.
Oh.
Like, I have that because I like incense, but also because Jason was going to get rid of it. But also I was kind of like, I don't know when I'll use this, because when I'm drying things, it gets a little like dust everywhere.
Yeah.
So I have that because it's cool.
Well, I won't light it if it is.
Okay, hold on. Okay, it's lower. I tried putting an equalizer on there to lower the high end. I bet it's really loud now. Okay.
A ringing.
Yeah, it is pretty annoying.
Fix it in post.
That's kind of what I'm trying to do. I don't know what actually is causing it. I think it's probably like a computer fan or something. Is it better now? I don't want to lower the levels too much. I feel like it muffles it. This is just going to be me fumbling around with audio levels.
In this room, just getting
No to what?
more and more roasty
Worse?
toasty.
Oh my gosh, I don't know what they're referring to.
Maybe we should have one of them on the phone. Actually, like, not,
Because also they're on a delay.
yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like, it's fairly delayed.
How high is my gain?
Do you want to, like, get them on the phone?
I can. That's a doable thing.
I'll just wish that I was doing this, incense. By doing, I mean lighting. I guess you don't do incense.
You could do it.
Is that a weed? Tom Peterson. Tom Peterson. Answer your phone.
It's not
now
better.
and in the past.
Like the ringing's not better? I can't call anybody apparently. I'll try calling Piper. Hello? I'm trying to figure out what's going on.
I'm calling the police.
Hello? Hi. Alright. I do have a noise gate on. No. So I'm just using whatever's in OBS. So it has really basic stuff. But yeah, I'm just messing around with this. So I tried to keep the gain as low as I could. Oh no, so I turned the highs way up on the equalizer. That's probably what that was. I right now have them a little bit below because when it's like at 0, that's when I can, at least I can start hearing the ringing. So I turned it up to 0 for a bit and then I turned it back down. The ringing? I'm trying to figure out what. Could try it. Okay. I have a. Mm-hmm.
What? This.
Okay, yeah, definitely when I turn up the gain, you notice it a lot more.
Uh-oh. I just went over the max fill line on this little tea kettle by a lot.
Oh.
Time for a tea kettle explosion.
something. So I'm messing with a few different things right now actually. It's the same. How about now? Yeah, it's a little. Couldn't hear anything? Okay. So that got rid of it. I feel like I can still. Hmm. Well, that's what I want. Can you hear it now? Oh, that is a good point. Hold on. I have a lot of cables running all over the place. Well, it could be a power cable. Hold on. How about what? Hold on. I'm trying some stuff. Because there is a power cable that gets tangled up in there with some of this stuff. I'm trying to see if it starts to come through anywhere. Can you hear it? Can you hear it when it comes through? I feel like I'm not hearing it now.
I don't have any. I can't hear it.
So that's the issue. Because if I bring them up, well, maybe. Wait, hold on. Let me try the. I'm turning up the gain. I feel like I'm not hearing the ringing anymore. So I just turned it up. Uh, I think it's good. Let me know if the levels are good. I turned the gain up, uh, like 15-20%. I've also not been like a consistent distance from my microphone a lot of this time, so that probably doesn't help.
Are we good?
all the way, cause I'm seeing my levels when I talk. I'm in the yellow. Yeah, cause on my end, looking at the levels, if I crank it up anymore, it could be peaking out potentially. Could maybe turn it up a little bit. Here, we'll. Oh,
I'm leaving.
Casey's leaving. Um,
Little glasses and that's water in.
I have some cups. You can use that one. That's basically my soup bowl. But if you want to use it, you can. Well, I've just been turning up the gain on my interface. I can turn up the record volume on my microphones, I guess. I'm just worried that might bring the ringing back. But, because now, well, I guess it's mostly still in the yellow. I just don't want to talk too loud, I guess. Yeah. No, it's helpful. I don't know what I'm doing on this end of things. Okay, that's perfect. Okay. Yeah, it's tricky. Cool. Cool, cool, cool. Let me know if anything weird comes up. So, I think this is pretty good. It's playing around with. Okay. Well, I'm going to hang up. Casey will be back in here in a second. All right. Thank you. All right. Thank you, Tech Sport. Mm. All right. I think we got it all figured out.
All right. The the hand dryer in that bathroom from like
Oh,
the 1970s works surprisingly well.
does it?
Yeah, I was expecting it to blow like a gentle like sad huff on my hands, you know, like but it did a pretty good job.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, thank you, Tom. Thank you, Piper.
Yep.
Thank you too, Madeline.
All right. Oh my gosh.
Dude, should I send this to our other friends or should we just leave it be?
That's up to you. I'm gonna hold on because I think we're ready. We got all the technical stuff all fixed. Hold on. I'm gonna turn the monitoring off on the software. It was like starting to like really screw with my talking because it's like delayed by just a little bit. Just do a whole thing where you both just wear the headphones with like the slight delay and you just sound
Oh my
like
gosh.
crazy. It's like the most disorienting thing ever. How ready are we
I'm ready.
to actually do this?
Oh. Mm. Does it
I'm
need like a? Will it need a new link if we were like restart it? Not that we haven't.
I don't think it needs to restart.
Okay.
We'll see what happens when I change this. I think it will be fine. I believe. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, it's going now. With our just 3 people. 3 people watching.
The only people we need.
And if more are watching, I have no way of knowing. Oh, Eliza's here.
Eliza.
Okay. All right. Well, now that we're actually started and actually have everything working, we can actually start. So, we're doing a little podcast on not the place it's going to be, technically,
What
because
do
you
you
have
mean?
to. So, I set up a different channel, but I didn't do it earlier in the week. And so it said you have to wait 24 hours. So I'm using my other channel for my printmaking stuff
Mm.
that I haven't done anything with yet. So the show must go on. Anyway, the idea of this podcast is to talk about aesthetics and mostly complain about ugly things, but also talk about cool things. I believe we are going to talk about In Praise of Shadows, if that's still the plan.
Yeah, although, if this is sort of our introductory um, episode or recording or whatever, we might want to kind of rehash quickly uh, the ideas that we kind of talked about in our kind of preliminary meetings, unless that's just too much.
Um, I'm not even sure how to make that concise.
I know that's kind of the problem, but it's sort of like the groundwork for my entire thought process for this.
Um,
But we
well,
could just jump into In Praise of Shadows.
yeah, I
And,
think
and
it'll
it
just
can
be that will all make sense. Because I think In Praise of Shadows touches on a lot of the same sort of ideas we've talked
actually it
about
does.
before. That's actually one of the things I really like about it for this. So I guess I'll start with like a basic introduction of what In Praise of Shadows is. And then we can get started, I guess. So, In Praise of Shadows is a book written by, I just forget his first name, Junjichi, Junichiro Tanizaki. He's like a Japanese author from, what, like, turn of the century, roughly. And he wrote the book in, wait, uh, what, the 30s? I don't know. I don't remember all the specific details. Anyway, he basically experienced Japan modernizing. And in the 30s, he had a lot of thoughts about it. And so that's what this book is about. It's basically him complaining about electric lights.
Yeah.
That's such a huge part of it. He's just like these dang electric lights.
It's a super cool book though,
Yeah,
and super influential.
and it's very short. You could read the whole thing in honestly one sitting
Yeah, no,
pretty
easily.
quickly. Like,
It's like basically an essay comprising of like two or three short essays.
yeah, it's like it's like 70 pages. Not even that. The actual, because I have a copy right here. Yeah, probably the whole book is actually only like 50 pages.
In the meantime, our friends, Jason and Yukari, gave me some really nice matcha, and I'm going to make some for Philip. And it's going to be very ASMR. If you listen carefully, you can hear the sounds of matcha being made. In fact, this should really just be about this.
Yeah.
Just an
It
ASMR channel.
the matcha is very fitting for the topic.
Actually, it is very fitting. I was going to share this with Philip anyway, but this is extremely fitting. Actually, hold on. You should smell this first. Well,
Hold on.
you can smell.
I can
'Cause
smell
it's
it in the bowl.
You can smell. Do smell it in the bowl. It
I'm gonna
smells very
turn off
nice.
this hot plate. Mm. It's very nice. Cooking and art.
You heard it, folks.
It's a boiling water and art.
Oh yeah. For friends that are listening, we have no idea what to call this, so by all means.
Oh, I already came up with.
Oh, you came up with it.
We
Okay,
came up with the name.
okay, back up, back up. Don't think of funny names.
It's just the name we came up with before. Just it's called They Drank Tea in Disgust.
Oh, whoops.
Uh-oh.
Okay, but sorry.
Anyway,
Continue.
so where were we? Oh, that's what it's called. Anyway, In Praise of Shadows is super interesting. I'm not used to this. I don't know how to approach this whole format. Anyway,
Yeah, the last few
it,
weeks have just been us chatting with each other about how we wanted to do this. It's easy just to chat with the other person.
yeah.
I can't even keep up.
In Disgust, yes. It's a pun of sorts.
Because we're gonna drink tea and discuss. Get it?
Or
And
drinking
also,
tea and discussing, but also
a good part of like the idea,
yeah.
or a good part of our impetus behind doing this is that we just want to complain about a lot of things.
Yeah.
You know,
Yep.
as Madeline pointed out, the internet needs more people complaining about stuff.
There's not enough. Nobody's complaining about anything these days. Um but yeah, I mean the idea of a big part of why we wanted to do this is because we like to complain about ugly buildings, but there's a lot of other ugly things. But In Praise of Shadow talks a lot about what am I supposed to do with this?
Drink it.
Just drink out of the bowl.
Yep.
Mm.
Shouldn't be too hot, I think.
No, it's not too hot.
You can.
Just the whole thing.
Unless,
I don't want to like chug it.
oh, I usually just chug it.
Just it's really nice
Yes.
because it like sits in your mouth.
And nobody's ever gonna know what In Praise of Shadow's about.
I know. We'll just hear us saying, "Wow, this is good tea." Into the mic. Yeah, I know. Well,
Chug it into
it's
the mic.
tricky because we're like passing a bowl of tea around, and I have to like move out of the way.
I'm gonna slurp it into the mic. But in the meantime, sorry, continue, and I won't interrupt you again.
But yeah, In Praise of Shadows is basically a cranky old Japanese author complaining about the introduction of Western conveniences to Japan. And I don't know how much to go into because I don't know how much I know the details of his life, but I know he used to live in Tokyo and he ran like his family's print house and then it burned down in a big fire. Then he moved to Kyoto and he realized that
Into the country.
yeah, he realized that he actually that there was like this contrast between kind of the more westernized Tokyo and then the more Japanese Kyoto. And sort of he's writing in this book about his like revelations about what is lost with like the changes that came to that country. And for what like from his perspective it's very much focused on almost like a Japan versus the West sort of a thing. But I think a lot of what he's talking about isn't necessarily that cuz we've observed similar things. I think it's just there's like certain things that happen that kind of disconnect people from their humanity basically. And he's touching on that with his perspective. And it's just interesting because we both read the book independently of each other. And then we just kind of like, hey, I read that, you read that. It's interesting. Anyway, that's my introduction to that book.
Yeah, and part of the fame of this book is that it very concisely outlines Japanese aesthetics, or at least like a handful of ideas of Japanese aesthetics. And so it's kind of like it's a good kind of like intro. And once, like for instance, right before I watched this, or I should say right after I read this book, I watched Totoro and suddenly saw everything he was talking about, which we'll talk about later when he talks about houses in the country and architecture.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can definitely see in things like a Miyazaki movie or really a lot of things that he's been a big influence on a lot of Japanese culture. Twinsies. Yeah, everybody has complaints about the ugly buildings.
Oh yeah.
I was talking to people at work about it, and I mentioned the ugly apartment buildings. I have a coworker that used to work at the rec center, and I mentioned the building kitty corner of it. And they're like, "Oh, the High Line, I hate that building." And she's like, "They're also expensive, and the inside of them looks like a hospital room." So, yeah, thank you. So, it's a big complaint. That's the biggest thing. But we'll get into more of that probably some other time because that starts to get into a whole other topic. We spent hours talking about that sort of stuff over the last few weeks.
Yeah. kind of tried to figure out what on earth we'd actually like to talk about if we were to do something like this.
But
Uh,
this one's a little bit more positive because we're mostly just like reviewing this book in a way and talking about how cool it is. Because he's got a lot of really interesting things to say. I mean, we've already said that,
yeah,
but
do you,
his perspective on like things that you wouldn't think about, like going to the bathroom, and how
oh
there's
yeah,
ways that that can be like a very aesthetic experience. It's actually one of my favorite parts of the books because
yeah, the bathroom part kind of rocks.
yeah, that and the lacquer in the restaurant.
Yeah,
Those are my two favorite parts. Can talk about Stephen King.
I
Maybe
mean, for the
if
Bradley
it
guest episode for
if it
sure.
comes up. Yeah. Um but yeah, where do we want to start with the book?
Is it, you have it here, is it
It's right
fresh
here.
on your mind?
I went over cuz I took notes. It's a little bit fresh on my mind. I guess in a way it's like where do you want to start with it? Cuz it's not exactly a linear book. Like there's sections and if you were just like pick any random section, you could like shuffle them and it would make sense. Cuz there's
Um,
like the section on like the restaurant that had the electric lights. There's him talking about the latrines. What is this? The building with Chip. Which one?
oh,
It had
it
Chip.
had something in it like that.
Wait, does Chip still exist in there? Oh yeah, no,
Whatever it's had
it's
in the
still there.
bottom
On the
has,
corner changes a lot.
yeah, it's
It's
changed
nothing
like four
now.
times.
It's nothing now. I think Chip is still in there though. Anyway,
I'll just jump right in. Uh, so in praise of Shadow, I think maybe one of the more famous parts is him talking about the interior design, I guess is what you would call it, in these like classic Japanese country houses. Um, so they're traditionally built with the eaves of the roof extending, way, way, way far out uh, to help insulate and to shed the water and all the other things eaves of roofs do. And so that alone starts to really like limit the amount of sunlight that comes in, and it creates, so well, that's the first step. The second thing is they have the paper doors, which diffuses the light. So suddenly you have inside an extremely kind of like dark house. And if you look up pictures of this, I can't remember if there's a specific name for it, but you can kind of see how actually lovely it is. It's, I don't know, like the Japanese tea house aesthetic. So, and obviously it's Japanese, so it's very minimalist, and they usually have their little like alcove where they have a little piece of art hanging, and that's what he talks about, is the alcove's like stuffed in a corner, so by the time you get to this alcove where there's this art hanging, there's almost no light.
yeah.
And it's
Yeah, what
it's
did
like
he
kind of
say?
a weird idea, but again, if you look up pictures of it, it's actually super pretty. And he talks about how it's um a very soothing place to be, sitting in a kind of an empty room on your tatami mats in more or less like the dark.
Yeah.
Uh, you can also think of, like I said, as soon as I read this, I saw this in Totoro. If every time they visit one of the country people's houses, like their neighbors, like when they need to use the telephone, that's a really good example. Or, um, just when they drop off the umbrella, you'll see that those houses are just dark, and everyone's
Yeah.
just kind of like sitting in the dark.
Yeah. But yeah, like the way he describes it is basically in the minimalism of a traditional Japanese home with the shoji like wall barriers and windows and whatever is that basically the play of the light throughout the day affects kind of how the room feels. And sort of instead of decorating it with pictures on the wall everywhere or whatever, like bunches of plants or anything, it's more you have light coming in that has different color and different kind of effect, and the shadows coming through, like, say, leaves from the outside or from people or objects in the room kind of adorn the walls differently throughout the day depending on what's going on. And then if, say, you light it with a lamp, that affects it too. And it's still going to be heavily influenced by the shadows in the room. All right. So it's, and a big part of what Tanazaki's complaining about is when you had electric lights introduced, he talks about this a lot, is basically it eliminates that whole aspect and it makes the space like too sterile and things like that, where it's like too many things are like brought into light in a way, and it's like the whole thing is ruined. Oh, oop. Yeah, that's one of the things to look out for, that thing. Uh, we had a little tea accident. But where was I? The tea distracted me. What
I
else?
spilled the tea.
Yeah. Um, I'm drawing a blank now. But yeah, basically things like that, like just like altered like how say spaces were, but they didn't change necessarily. They just like added stuff to it and it made like weird juxtapositions between like new things and old things. And then he also argues that, it's getting away like for Japanese people, it's weird because like their natural inclination is basically to have that shadowy space. Like that's what they're naturally comfortable with. But that's his perspective on it. Careful. Ooh. Here, there's some paper towels over here.
Um,
Your turn.
oh, what was I gonna say? Uh, my this quiet tea fiasco that happened did like kind of derail us. Um,
Also, the lighting's a little bit in the mood of the book.
actually,
I guess
kinda, yeah.
we got a nice
Um,
dark, kind of shadowy room.
oh, another. Oh, I remember. So an interest. This is just an interesting side thought, which is, um, when he describes this kind of room in the book, it sounds really awesome, and you can kind of imagine it. But an interesting thing to think about as, I guess, a Westerner or whatever, is I actually like tons and tons of windows. Um, and it's not like one's like right or wrong, but it's just I remember thinking, oh, that sounds so nice. This basically you almost don't have windows and you have this like super diffused light coming in. It's very soft, and very calming. But I on the other side, I kind of like uh Western houses where we're just trying to like stick windows everywhere we possibly can. I like a lot of like natural sunlight.
Yeah.
That's
A
just
lot
a
of
side thought that I remember reading it and being like, "Oh, that sounds really nice," but I also kind of like not that.
yeah. I mean, I like dark spaces.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm in a
it's
basement right now.
it's different feel too. Like if you just want to be like he says in the book, I think the it's it's just like a super duper calming, like relaxing atmosphere that the light coming through the paper creates. We could talk about the restaurant
The restaurant,
if we're just jumping around because that kind
yeah,
of like
that connects into it for
yeah,
sure.
and it's
So, too quiet. Who's too quiet?
oh, I was talking like off to the side. Was it me?
I don't know. I feel like it was probably me.
We were both
So,
kind of like talking away from the mic.
so yeah, when you're talking, you can look at the levels right there.
Mm,
You want it to be in the yellow.
wait, okay.
I think that's the rules.
I,
I I don't make the rules. The microphone people make the rules. I have this written down here. Let me find.
so I'll give the a quick like intro. He talks about uh a restaurant in Japan or a restaurant in Tokyo that he liked
It's
going to.
in. I think it's in Kyoto.
Oh, in Kyoto.
I
He
remember
liked going
looking this
to
up.
before things got really modernized, and he describes how these rooms uh were basically the you'd go into this restaurant and they would put you in one of those uh like classic Japanese restaurant rooms that you have like your own little private box, except for the only light would be from a candle.
Yep.
And he talks about how it created this just beautiful mood because the lacquer on
Yeah.
everything was actually looks really beautiful in candlelight, and like the if I recall, I don't know if
I,
the
I
decorations on like the paper and stuff looks really beautiful in the candlelight, and then they went and stuck in electric lights, and it just ruined everything.
yeah. Well, he relates an experience that he had with the place, which I looked it up. It's still there. The restaurant's still there, and the menu sounded really good. But that's a side note. He went there, and when he went there, they had switched to electric lights, like Casey said. But they offered the option to do it the old way, where you get your little private room and you can use a candle. And he decided to do that because, he's on this like obsession of trying to revitalize uh the traditional Japanese aesthetic experience. So he does that and he just like goes into how he like had never like going back to that, he had never realized how beautiful the lacquerware is in the shadow. He's like in the it's like it became apparent to him that that sort of dishware, what do you call it? Dishware?
I guess.
I don't know. Is kind of meant to be used in that sort of environment. In the way that it's always usually decorated where it has like maybe like some gold trimming on it or some like little flecks of like white in there, which I think is usually an eggshell or something. I don't know. Something like that. Or silver or something like that. Because like in like full bright light, it's not that interesting. But when it's candlelight, he like goes into how it like looks like, maybe it's like the gold might look like a flame or the silver or eggshell in there is gonna look like stars or something. And then also he goes into like he had a miso soup in this like lacquer bowl, and the way that the light diffuses into like the miso, how it like the whole experience is totally transformed by how it's just lit, you know? And he just goes, it's like, you don't have that experience when it's just modern lighting because it's so bright and it just like, this beautiful milky bowl of soup that has all this depth and like glowing in the lacquer just becomes like, oh, it's a black bowl with like muddy water in it. Food field trip. I'd love to go to
Oh,
this
I
place
know.
if I went to Kyoto again.
And if I recall, he actually says that in electric lights, he thinks lacquers look cheap.
Yeah, no, yeah, that's
And I don't know if I've ever seen a real lacquered bowl, but you can kind of like
it
imagine,
it
like,
in like a just straight up light when it's like fully lit, it does kind of just look like plastic
yeah,
because it's shiny and it's usually just like a solid color. It's usually like a black or a red, and yeah, it looks plasticky. But yeah, it does have like a particular like treatment of light with the way it interacts with it. It's not just shiny, like you can tell it's lacquer, but it's it really loses a lot of its effect when it's not lit right. And he makes a lot of like he brings up the difference between that and like modern ceramic where it's just like white and how that doesn't work in like the dark candlelight type thing. But and that starts to connect into a lot of other stuff he starts bringing up where it's when you have a lot of light, it's like draws a lot of attention to like any imperfection, which he brings up a lot with the bathroom stuff. He's like, why would you want a bright bathroom where any bit of like grime in it becomes immediately apparent and you're just like aware of the fact that you're in a dirty place? But
you should describe the bathroom part just for the
probably I think I have it marked very clearly. I could like just read it.
a reading.
Could have a reading of it. Which page is it on?
Yeah,
It's like one of the first things in the book. Oh, how long is it? Is it too long to read? It's like he like goes on for a while about it.
yeah. So he straight up just talks about a bathroom, a Japanese bathroom.
It's basically an outhouse.
Yeah.
Um, is this the spot? All right. Where does he start? Yeah. All right. Where the heck does he start? I don't remember where he starts. Anyway, he describes it. Every time I am shown to an old, dimly lit, and I would add, impeccably clean toilet in a Nara or Kyoto temple, I am impressed with the singular virtues of Japanese architecture. The parlor may have its charms, but the Japanese toilet truly is a place of spiritual repose. It always stands apart from the main building, and at the end of a corridor, in a grove fragrant with leaves and moss. No words can describe the sensation as one sits in the dim light, basking in the faint glow reflected from the shoji, lost in meditation or gazing out at the garden. The novelist Natsumi Soseki counted his morning trips to the toilet a great pleasure, a psychological delight he called it. And surely there could be no better place to savor this pleasure than a Japanese toilet where, surrounded by tranquil walls and finely grained wood, one looks out upon blue skies and green leaves. He goes on a lot about it, but that it's important that it's clean and that it's dim.
Because um I think I've seen what
Spiritual poops.
spiritual.
I know. Well, that's like
So
what's so great about it.
I think how they look, if I'm not mistaken, it might not all look like this, but I think they basically have like not windows, but up a little higher, kind of like slatted like wood. So you could actually just basically like you're like looking, you have a window or like bars of wood that you can look through. And so, you're having your spiritual poop and out the window or out these through like the through the slats in the wood, you can like see like the leaves shaking in the breeze
Yeah.
and the
He says,
dew dripping on the roof and the sky just past that.
yep. It says narrow windows at floor level. There one can listen with
At
such a
floor
sense.
level.
Yeah. With such a sense of intimacy to the raindrops falling from the eaves and the trees seeping into the earth as they wash over the base of a stone lantern and freshen the moss about the stepping stones. Just sounds very nice. Just listening to the rain through the little gaps. uh,
That laugh was for you, Amy.
yeah. But yeah,
I mean, maybe if you, Amy, maybe if you had this magical
yeah, go to
Kyoto country house restroom
yeah.
with the branches waving in the breeze through the floor level window, I guess.
Yeah. Well, he goes on describing more, but I love his little aside where he says, "Here I suspect is where haiku poets over the ages have come by a great many of their ideas." It's just like they're probably taking a dump when they came up with all their haikus. I love that.
Well, so my question is, I I thought traditionally in an outhouse like this, don't Japanese people crouch? They're not like sitting on a toilet.
Yeah, there's probably a hole in the ground.
Yeah, so how long are you supposed to like crouch in your meditative repose?
I
That
don't know.
sounds arduous. Or maybe if you're used to it, because that's how you've gone to the
I
bathroom
mean,
your
you're
whole
probably
life.
not in there that long.
Yeah,
You don't need to be in there that long to enjoy the ambiance. I'm sure it still probably didn't smell great. But I don't know. He makes it sound like it could smell okay. The way he describes it. Just fresh moss and a garden surrounding it. But yeah, that's one of my favorite parts of
I
it.
know that's almost.
He goes on
I was
for
about to
like
say
pages and pages going
that's
on about it.
that's
I just
almost
basically read like the first like paragraph and a little bit there.
a part that one almost needs to just read.
Yeah. But yeah, those are my two favorite parts is just him going on about the restaurant stuff and the the toilet.
I'm trying to remember if there was anything else that like stuck out to me.
Um
In in relation to what we've been talking about,
keep going. I'm just looking at
I know
some
I
notes.
was collecting my thoughts. It's a little different because in this case, he's really sad. Well, one, he's really sad about Japan being modernized, but not just that. He's sad about Japan being modernized with Western technology. He talks about how he says, "Oh, if the Japanese had on their own invented a similar thing, then it might have um
It would have more of the sensibilities of the Japanese in mind.
yeah." So it's like, and that's kind of, or that's pretty interesting. Um
Well, he so this is um he talks about how essentially beauty and you know aesthetics are developed through like the necessities of life. And so like the necessities that Japanese people grew up and developed their culture around was like developed a certain sense of beauty. And so introducing something different that applied to a different context is like jarring. Yeah, you're crouching. That's why the windows are at the ground.
It makes sense.
Probably. I would think so. Mm.
No, that's a good and because Philip and I have talked about how like art and culture develops. I don't know what you would say. I guess the
It develops in a place
yeah.
from people being in that place, being present there, and like having sort of a social continuity. And so they develop a whole sense of how to live life, their values that they live by. And from that, I mean, kind of like what Tanizaki says, where beauty is born from the necessities of life. And included in that is just how people interact with each other. And so a culture develops when you have people that have that continuity create something unique.
Yeah. I mean, it made me that just made me think of the linen sheets. So, I was telling Philip about the video I watched, who knows when, where there's this guy talking about how he went around collecting these beautiful linen sheets that were created or like 100 years ago or so, somewhere along those lines. But what would happen is when people would get married, and this was a custom uh, in Western Europe and the United States, then when people got married, somebody would make a set of sheets for them. Somebody would sew a set of sheets for them. And he said that all of these linen sheets are just beautiful and they're wonderfully made and they're intricate because somebody's tailor or great aunt or whoever would handcraft these sheets, and it was a pretty common gift for a wedding. And um, we've talked about how it's interesting that that just has gone
That's
away, like
it's
just
not
gone.
much of a thing.
Yeah, I
The
mean,
the sheets in particular is like I've never even heard of that.
and so you can. That's
What?
like a beautiful little thing that's gone away uh, from our culture, I guess you would say.
Well, that gets into my idea that necessarily what is being talked about in Praise of Shadows isn't necessarily just a Japan thing. It's sort of a not considering the consequences of the way you structure things or what kind of new technology or whatever. Because that's like, I don't know if it's not, there's technology involved with that, but it's more like Target exists now.
Yeah, um, and it's
So,
kind.
so you don't like make sheets for people, give, you buy some from Target for them.
Yeah, you and in like a weird way, Target becomes like kind of like an interloper. I don't know.
Yeah.
I liked. I'm trying to remember exactly what we talked about our Target
I
becoming a
think,
vampire.
yeah, Target's like a, oh, I don't even remember what I said.
I know we. I need to like go back and listen. Well, Because yeah, the idea being that for the sake of convenience and time, nobody gets a beautiful handmade set of sheets from Great Aunt Ethel anymore.
Instead, she buys you Target sheets.
She buys you Target sheets. And in a way, I mean, just thinking about In Praise of Shadows, in a way, it is like kind of an out, because he's complaining about, yeah, like an outside, um, they're it's Japan being modernized with an outside modernization, like an outside aesthetic.
Yeah.
Like everything they're getting is from the West. And it's almost like weirdly the same because we're not getting like sheets made by someone that loves us. We're getting sheets made in a factory. Well, I mean, in like Taiwan, but like designed, in by
It
somebody in
wasn't.
Cincinnati.
It's like not made for you. It's just kind of made in general. They're making bathroom window
Are
jokes.
they still in bathroom window mode over there?
Yep.
Wait, what? I
That
still
that's the most
like
interesting thing we've said is
about the emojis. Uh, but I can't tell what is that? Is that a boxing glove? I
I
still
don't
like can barely see the chat.
I can't really tell what that is.
We need it right in front of us present.
What on earth is that? It's like it's orange. It does look like an oven mitt.
I don't know.
It could be that just the emojis are weird on here.
I'm getting up out of my chair to investigate. Oh, it's like a little.
Is it like a
They're like little goofy face guys.
I'm
That's what they're called, goofy face guys.
Anyway, got distracted.
Yeah. I feel like I should be tying everything back into In Praise of Shadows since it's book club.
I had some thought in mind a little bit ago, but things things went other places.
because that was kind of the take home.
Live responses to the live chat. It's delayed.
Yeah, where it's like
It's like delayed by like at least 30 seconds, I think.
it's delayed by more than that.
It's yeah, it might be even a few minutes actually.
Yeah, because they're like
I taking notes. Gosh dang it.
if only I had Madeline's classroom management to rein in Bradley.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, he rails on electric lights a lot.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So there's another one where he talks about going to some moon festival. I don't know all the celebrations in Japan, but he's talking about something where you go to like a moon viewing. And he's like, I got together with some friends. We're gonna go do this our annual moon viewing. And we went to this beautiful lake that we go to every year, and they had like put up electric lights all around the lake, and they just like turned them all on, and it like ruined the whole experience because now the moon isn't the only light that you're experiencing, which is the whole point. Now it's like getting drowned out by all these like street lights. He's like, and he goes into like, it's bad enough that we're getting rid of shadows in our own homes, but like when like trees don't even have shadows anymore, he's like, something's being robbed from us. It's like there's not even nighttime anymore. It's like in a way like sometimes when you're reading it, you're like, I can like feel him like in some of these situations like going kind of nuts. Like you could tell in his head he's like, "Oh my gosh, I'm gonna go crazy." It's like there's lights here too. What the heck? It's like why'd they put lights in a park? Where it's like we think about it's like of course there's lights in a park, but when it's like he's thinking about it, it's like that doesn't make any sense. And he like brings this interesting perspective on like why that is weird for him. It's very interesting. Yeah, Utah is kind of yeah, that's true.
Utah's what?
Erased nighttime. I mean, that's mostly in the valley. I mean, if you like go up in the mountains,
But yeah,
there's but
any like modern
yeah,
suburban slash urban area has more or less.
that's like everywhere. Any like moderately populated place now is just
Yeah,
it's all lights all the time.
there like aren't stars
Yeah,
above Provo.
I know. It's annoying.
In a way, I'm kind of jealous of the guy, uh, bec- because he had like a really strong, cool culture to lose.
I
uh,
mean, I don't know if it's lost, but
well, no, but he thinks he's kind of. I mean, he's kind of got like a kids these days. He's a little like curmudgeonly about it, but it's well um like he's like, oh, it's going away, it's lost forever.
well, what's interesting is probably there's been a lot of like concerted effort to like preserve things in Japan probably because of this book.
Yeah,
It's very influential.
and I'm
And
gonna.
and there's so something I thought was interesting. So when he was going on about, if Japan had been left to its own devices without Western intervention, and he's just musing on, if he's like perhaps Japan would develop its own types of science and technology. One of the things he brings up is like, oh, instead of the Western style pen, Japan would develop some kind of brush pen with a reservoir that. And he goes into describing it, and it's like, oh, that's like exactly like a Pentel brush pen. Like, exactly. And I like looked into it, and it's like, yeah, Japan did invent that very thing. And part of me is like, well, I wonder if that happened because of that book, too. I don't know. Eventually, in like the 70s, a brush pen was invented in Japan. Not by Pentel. I don't remember the name of the company. It's like some company that still exists, and they have very expensive pens.
If left to their own devices, they would have come up with cool Legend of Korra cars, like Legend of Korra technology. Thanks, Legend of Korra concept artists.
Yeah, there's something else in there, but that was the one that stood out to me. Is like I just thought it was funny that it's like, oh well, that is the case. I think also when he like goes into like, oh, Japan would totally come up with something like photography and just work differently. He's like, well, Japan went on to develop a whole lot of camera technology
Yeah, and
and became like one of the biggest innovators in that field.
I don't know. I'm like about to talk about things I don't really know, but like I'm pretty sure essentially how it goes is post-war Japan had like modernized like crazy, and then a couple decades later they like kind of realized what they did, probably again because of books like this,
Hmm.
and there have been like huge movements to kind of like backtrack that.
Yeah.
Again, I
Well,
don't.
it's like in the I want to say the 80s or 90s is when they started to really do a lot of preservation work. Because I know in like the 60s and 70s they started to they're like trying to become America. Like they're obsessed with it. And then now there's they spend a lot, like the government there spends a lot of money to like even like just preserve like the roofs on like old like cottages in like remote villages, which is again, I think it is this book is probably a big influence on that because he's like a very prominent
He's a,
author there.
yeah, he's a famous novelist, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
never read anything else by him.
yeah.
I feel like I wouldn't understand because I reading this book, I just like imagine his novels being like the most Japanese thing ever, and I'd just be like, I'm lost. I
It-
don't know enough to understand this.
yeah, it's like when you watch the Studio Ghibli like Takahara films, like My
Yeah,
Neighbors the Yamadas or whatever, and about 90% of the jokes, you're like, what?
yeah. Here I don't.
You're like, I guess.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
Also, responding to the chat a little while back, I do love curmudgeonly. I do. I'm.
Me
I have a theory that my mustache is slowly taking over
too.
because I wasn't this hipster a few years ago, but now everything I'm just like I'm just getting like more hipster. I think it's the mustache. I
Probably.
think it's like a sci-fi movie. Like the mustache is slowly changing me.
What's your opinion on his what would you call it? The sushi thing he talks about.
The dessert,
There's like a plum sushi or something.
like
Or
the
what persimmon. It's like salted salmon sushi wrapped in persimmon leaves.
I don't know. I don't remember that part.
Oh.
I mean, that
I
is
just like remember reading it and it's like that sounds really good. And he like goes on, he's like, this was so good. There was like a whole like summer where this is literally all I ate for every meal. And he like explains how to make it. It's basically a recipe. It seems very involved though. What is that a picture of?
I don't know.
Oh, it's like a guy biting his fingers. Calling yourself hipster. Anyway, I thought maybe you'd have opinions on that because it's a food thing. I just thought it sounded great.
Amy, stop calling me out.
Hipster serial killer.
What? Oh, it might. Oh no, it is. It's the criminal mustache that like Igor fetched for me when I wanted the like not the criminal mustache. Oh no.
the the gentlemanly mustache is
Yeah.
what you wanted.
Yeah, I wanted the gentleman and scholar mustache. Um so hold on. Now it's distracting to have these funny chats. Oh, I
Maybe
know.
the rest should just be reading the chat.
Okay. Um well, so we've talked about how um like a strong culture develops, I don't know what you like, in a in sort of a little bit of a bubble in a place. Obviously, like there's always um crossovers and stuff, but for example, if you were to Um, or I have heard that if you were to go around to various like small European villages, like I don't know, someone go on a small European village tour,
Mhm.
but you see that they're often these villages that have existed now for like, oh, 1,000 years often have kind of strong and unique cultures that they've maintained. Um, obviously, probably fairly similar to the ones around them, and it's also why people really, really like places like Japan.
Mhm.
Uh,
Well, that's a big part of why like somebody would go to Venice or something. It's like there's so much built up culture and things that are unique to that place. Like I said, because you've had like a continuity of people who carried something through and developed it, and they had their own thing that they were focused on. But yeah, and that could be anywhere. I think it's just over time that sort of thing happens if left to its own device.
and we started off again complaining about about stuff basically here in Provo as far as ugly buildings. And then we talked about how, or your idea, which kind of actually was super interesting to me, about how Provo's this, and not just Provo, but basically this can apply to many like modern cities, but Provo seems like a special case where it's like super duper, um, oh, what would you say? Transitory in that like every single person in Provo's like, well, I can't wait till I leave Provo.
Yeah.
And so how
Even people born and raised in Provo, there's like this permeating attitude of I shouldn't be here.
and so how's a place like Provo, and this kind of like extends to our whole culture, which is uh and there's a lot of other factors such as like commodity culture, inconvenience, different things we've talked about,
Yeah.
and they're all clumsily swimming in my brain at the moment. But
Just focus on one at a time.
yeah, well, it's how do you
Well, connected to the culture thing, I think the that idea of people feeling like they shouldn't be somewhere contributes to the non-development of culture. Because you have to have people present. And even so part of that isn't just that people actually leave, but it's like you could have somebody live their whole life in one place, like Provo, and the whole time be like, someday I'm gonna not be here. And they'll just live their whole life interacting with the community as if they plan on leaving, which means they're not gonna do anything to help develop it culturally. Yeah, college town. That's a big part. But the thing is, my point is, I don't think it has to be that way. You just have to have people be like, "Oh, this is where I am."
and Logan doesn't feel like it's not the same.
Yeah.
There's like this weird attitude in Provo of like
Hmm.
everyone is just coming and going. Logan definitely has like it's like a college town, but it's got like a certain like cozy small town feel to it still.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, I wonder how much of that too has something to do with the fact that you have a lot of like agriculture there. So you have people running their farms, and they're just kind of like if you have something like that, you can't just like pack up and leave
Mm-hmm.
if you're a farmer. You can't be like, well, I'm gonna go become a farmer in Texas now. I mean, you could, but it'd be so much work and effort and all that.
Yeah, so if we complain about a building in Provo, like an ugly apartment building, it's the idea that it's obviously, like, there's not people or like nobody. Oh, there's all these factors. So obviously, or whoever's got this is like, I'm gonna put this here. It's gonna make me a bunch of money, and I'm just gonna hire, I don't know, some like architectural firm out of LA
Yeah.
or something, and they'll give me like this, probably variation on like like a little portfolio of formats they already have, right? So you like, it's like not designed.
Yeah, like the place isn't in mind with the design.
Yeah,
It's designed somewhere by somebody who's unfamiliar and doesn't care.
which is like everything.
Yeah, I think it permeates a lot of places. Like I don't know, you see the same sorts of low effort architecture all over the place. It's not just a Utah thing. It's just noticeable cuz there's a lot of construction going on. Provo has like an increasing amount of construction and it's like progressively more hideous.
It's like all garbage apartment complexes,
Yep. They're putting one up like right on the center street coming off the highway.
and they're not made to last.
Yeah.
They're made.
Well, that's a big part of it is like kind of that continuity thing is nobody's gonna in like 20 years like somebody who like used to live in the High Line apartments by the rec center, they're not gonna be like if it that building got torn down, they're not gonna be like, oh dang, I loved that place. They're not. Nobody's gonna care, you know, because there's nothing particular about it. It's essentially a nondescript building that doesn't make any sense in the environment. But that's a whole nother topic.
Yeah,
What kind of buildings actually make sense to have? My my belief is that that style of building makes zero sense in Utah. But that's especially Provo. Anyway, it's all about like that mindset of like not caring because you don't feel like you're supposed to be where you are. So you're not actually present. You aren't actually anywhere. And it's something that I recognize in myself. And there's like a degree of it where it's like I always feel that way, but like recognizing I'm like it's not healthy anyway. Cuz yeah, you don't you keep yourself from doing things. And if you have enough people doing that, just nobody does anything that matters.
yeah.
And it's particularly noticeable with architecture just because that's something that's like it's like a big extensive thing that is there for a long time, right? And so it's very noticeable. So in a way it's like architecture is a way that you can kind of judge that aspect of a society because it's such an expense and time consuming thing that's going to be there a long time.
It's actually something we've mentioned be interesting to talk with Justin about, because we feel like we've talked about how there's this like attitude where we feel this way, like, oh, I'm not gonna be here in Provo. But what about programmers where like the whole point is that
They move.
they move?
You got to move to keep up.
Yeah, and you're already an an old worn out dog if you've been in your job for more than like a year.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Cuz like when I think about this, I'm like, well, I just need to make a decision on where I will be. And I guess it makes sense for me to be here, I guess. Because like I've like made active decisions to like be more established where I am. Doing the farmers market, getting a studio here, things like that.
Yeah, the problem here is we've talked about like 50 interesting things in the weeks leading up to this as we've kind of like hashed out what we want to discuss, and they're all like parading across my mind,
Mhm.
and I'm like, "Oh yeah, that. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that." I mean, and they're all related, right? It
Yeah.
comes down to the fact that in modern life, convenience kind of rules. Also, money, on like a certain end, but like,
Convenience is a big part of it.
yeah. Um, but to make this like a focused talk, I don't know. I feel like I'm
Well,
going from thing to
well,
thing.
to I guess in a way to make it all connect into the In Praise of Shadow thing is just what, in a way, Tanizaki's complaining about is that built up culture of Japan, he was experiencing it like vanish. So he's almost seeing that go away. Whereas, like, in a way, our observation of the architecture is similar. Where you can, like, if you look at, like, an aerial picture of Provo, you can tell which buildings are older. And you can kind of see that, like, over time, the buildings get crappier and uglier. You know, a building built like the city center temple or the old courthouse or the library are really cool. They're really beautiful buildings. And then, you go buildings built like 50 years later, they're okay, but they're not nearly as nice. And then you go like 50 years after that and you're like they're starting to get really ugly. And they're getting uglier. Um but yeah, so it's like he's observing like a deterioration, and he's observing like this outside force from just like a different culture that's invading, and that's the way he sees it, whereas we're just seeing like some sort of something else. It's almost like an internal like weird thing. Part of it's like I don't know what's going on, it's just an observation. And like the mentality thing is another observation, mostly in myself but also just from interactions with other people. And I just have like this feeling of a connection there.
Yeah, as I've said a couple times, it's almost like I feel like I'd never kind of had what he's, like that long-standing uh culture. I don't know, my culture has always been Hot Pockets and Disney Channel.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, I mean, that's the thing is like, I guess for me, one of the things that's interesting looking at this book is the fact that it brings in this like outside perspective on things. And so like I can look at that and it kind of makes you think outside the box in a way with your own life with regards to how you relate to what's going on around you.
mm-hmm.
And it's, yeah, like you said, it's like you feel like, well, I don't feel like I've ever recognized any kind of long standing sort of tradition in my culture in the way that he's observing, just in like how his living spaces, how living spaces would be in Japan, or like how cities are, or how going to a restaurant is, or going to the toilet is. where it's like, well, I've just existed in the same thing. So it's like that outside perspective is like, hey, maybe like thinking about even like something like electric lights. He complains about those all the time. It's like, yeah, it is kind of a. It's like, what effect does that have? The fact that we exist in a reality where you almost can't escape light, like it's everywhere all the time. And so it's like thinking he's observing like aesthetic things that bug him about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's like there's almost like a psychological impact there. And it's like, what is that? I've never, like, before reading this, I was like, I don't know if I ever thought about that. It's like there's got to be some effect, right? Having a lights on all the time, like when you leave here, you're gonna go out into that parking lot and there's gonna be lights on. I mean, it's a fairly dark parking lot, but there's like the street lights on University right there. You got the Smiths is lit up. It's bright. You can't escape it. Even like little things like even if you're in a dark room, there's probably something like a light on like a little like an LED on like a power cord or something that your brain notices even if you don't. That has an effect, I think. But that's like getting into
Yeah.
things I don't totally understand. I know it's but it's I don't know. Ooh, trying to think what else there is to say. I mean, I say read the book. It's really short.
Yeah.
It's super short. You could read it in one sitting pretty quick. I took a little bit longer on this last read because I was taking notes, but or listen to the audiobook. The audiobook's probably like I have it. I don't remember how long. It's probably like a couple hours, maybe. Hmm. I think in the at the end of the book, there's like a afterwards. I just thought this was funny. Is it's an anecdote about um later in life, Tanizaki's getting a new house built, and the builder is like, "Oh, I read your book. I know exactly what kind of house I'd build for that." And he's just like, "I couldn't live in a house like that." So, because he does admit like there's definitely a lot of benefit to like the new technology and whatnot that was introduced. It's just he's kind of almost like, "Hey, we need to think about the effects that this has." Because he's definitely not like, "Oh, we need to like reject this." He's just like, "Hey, can we stop and think about this a little bit? Like, what effects is this having? Maybe we should like work to make things work in a way that makes sense for us." Right? He's not like a Luddite or anything. He's just like, "Hey, maybe we should like think about a better way of doing electric lights than just like literally doing what the Americans are doing." Yeah, it's probably affected our vision. I think it affects our sleep.
Yeah.
I think people sleep way worse. I know it definitely affects me, even if there's like a little bit of light. It like makes it way harder to sleep. And it's like almost impossible to like escape, especially in my van. There's always some light getting in.
And there's the never, I mean, there's nowhere in Provo that you don't hear the sounds of traffic.
Yeah. I mean, that's like any city.
Yeah. So
That
that's like its own similar
let's
topic.
say when I was in the Dominican Republic, all night there is some kind of significant noise at all times. And I remember when I first got there, I couldn't, I like almost couldn't sleep for like days because I was just like laying there and was like, oh my gosh, there's so many animals and cars and music playing all the
Oh
time.
yeah.
All the time. Eventually, I just got used to it. And then when I got back, I was like so conscious of how quiet it was in my house that I couldn't sleep. I couldn't sleep because I was like, it's too quiet.
You were like,
I'm not
where's
used to it being so quiet.
where's the cumbia?
I know, where's the gunshots? Where's the gunshots and chickens and dogs and somebody blasting music at 2 a.m.?
And kind of talking about um well, I don't know when we'd ever wrap this up, or I kind of like the idea that we just talk and talk and talk
Well,
and talk.
the stream will never
Yeah,
stop.
like just I actually really like I kind of think it's a funny idea
I'll just
that these
stay
would
down here and have people come in
just
and
be like
talk to me.
notoriously long. But um like you said, like he there's a couple, if I recall, it's been a while since I've read it, but there's a couple points where he kind of is like, take these things with a grain of salt. I'm going like a little farther in one direction than.
Yeah.
And it made me think, like, um, yes, never, it'll never end. It'll go on and on, my friends. Um,
Skip the farmer's market tomorrow.
yeah. Or we'll just take it to the farmer's market.
Yeah. I don't know how that would work.
Like, I'm not being super fair when I'm like, I never had a culture. I only ever had a Disney Channel. Like, there's a lot of, like we have access to a lot of rich culture, a
Yeah.
lot of awesome movies and literature and all sorts of great stuff. Uh, there does seem to be at any given time, I don't know what you call this, but like the big, ginormous, like big culture of the United States, and it's always like pretty lame.
Well, I mean, this is getting into a whole another
Yeah,
one of the overarching things we've thought about. But that's like the gist of it in my mind is you just end up with common denominatorism, and that's what that is.
yeah. When your audience is literally like the entire United States or the whole world now,
Yeah.
then your product has to be have such like a general appeal that
It loses any kind of like particular charm.
yeah, you're not like, ah, this is like a wonderful product, of Vermont or you're like
Yeah.
of New Orleans, of
It's like
of
it's just product.
yeah, of the Catholicism, who knows, right?
Yeah.
But instead you're like, ah, it's product.
Yeah.
Um,
Because it has to be to kind of be a one size fit all thing, sort of.
so there is like I think like lovely things both like in our culture, like of the United States, I guess, or going back into Europe, whatever. There's a lot of great stuff. So it's not like entirely fair, but I think yeah, there is like
Well,
there's
I think this it suffers the same sort of thing I think as the sheets. You have like it's just everything has like a intermediary almost with it. So like everything's like a step removed from what is natural. I hate the stupid little heart logo in the
I
corner.
know we have a little
It like
heart emoji just covering
I have
up.
to just make the chat really wide. Brands are probably part of the problem.
Yeah, cuz well,
I
because you can imagine a brand maybe at some point, in the past that makes some product that's really high quality and lovely and you like live in Utah and that brand is in, I don't, I'm just going off the top of my head, like in Idaho or something, and they're making whatever this thing is you need, and they do a great job,
Hmm.
and like you can kind of imagine this brand in the past, whereas yeah, now it's like whatever these sheets they're making, there's somebody. No, but I don't think there's ever like an overarching like sinisterness, but there's like definitely people that are just like, how can we make the most money off of this? Right? So there's,
Well, it's just thinking about sheer efficiency.
yeah. And
It's just
so,
like, oh, well, it makes sense to have this person in Minneapolis design these sheets for some factory in Thailand to produce to sell at a Target in Houston. No,
and
that slash everywhere else
yeah,
to be bought by people not, yeah.
and you go into the Target and there's four different kinds of sheets and they're essentially all the exact same sheet, right? And they have to try and differentiate themselves with branding, which at that point is kind of like a form of like, this sounds extra mean or something, but like trickery. Like, because they have to
Well,
like try and differentiate themselves with like with like the image on the box and with
it's
advertising.
superficial.
Yeah, superficial's a nicer.
It's like it's actually like a meaningless distinction with a lot of things
Yeah,
actually. But yeah, no local brands that stay, yeah. That is true. Well, it's like the incentives of things. I feel like we're getting like off topic now.
I mean that's kind of fine. I don't know what
um,
else to say about In
I
Praise of
mean, it's just,
Shadows. Read it.
yeah, read it.
It's delightful. It'll
Cause
make
yeah,
it'll make watching Totoro more interesting.
it'll make a lot of things more interesting. I want to try making the salmon persimmon sushi because it sounds so good. I don't know where you get persimmon leaves, and I don't trust any of the salmon I'd get to do what it asks you to do. At least here in Utah.
But yeah, a lot of what we've talked about kind of like sneaks back to the idea of local stuff. Um, and
It's it's about having people be somewhere
yeah, because
to to create a local um, cultural context instead of having like, yeah, the goal of going global, yeah, like I don't think that needs to be like always where you try and go. Like the idea of always trying to be like, this needs some, like when it comes to art, it's like, do you need to create art that has mass appeal all the time? Because like when I think about it, like the reason why there's things that we find interesting is because people do things that are not just broadly appealing. It's like they did something for a specific purpose with something in mind that they cared about that maybe was only for a few people, right?
hmm
And that makes it interesting because there's like specific things in mind with it that touch on particular aspects that those people cared about. But I mean, that's the thing is you could look at a lot of like classic art and whatnot, like all the famous stuff from like old masters and whatnot. They're made for like very specific things within like a very specific context, and they're still appealing not because the Sistine Chapel was made for as many people as possible to enjoy it. It's because it was made for a very specific purpose, with very specific things in mind, with a very specific context that had a whole culture built up around it. And because it was within its own kind of little space where it existed, a lot of people can appreciate it from outside because it was very mindful in its creation.
It's like it's a weird modern problem
Yeah.
because nobody would have ever even thought of that, right? If
Mm-hmm.
they're like, if you're in a small town in France making a cheese that's like, unique to there because you've got this cow and this special and this kind of grass,
Mm-hmm.
and then you do a special thing and it makes this lovely cheese that is unique to that area, right?
Yeah.
And like nobody's like, ah, yes,
No,
I'm within my own cultural context. Like it's
yeah,
like a
that's not how it's not like a conscious thing. It's just how it works out. Cuz, you know, if let's say France never figured out how to make cheese
and
and
Justin never went to France.
yeah, and they figured out they learned how to make cheese in the modern era from like England, and they learned about making cheddar. France would like only make cheddar cheese because they're like, oh, that's the cheese you make. That's like, and then you'd have like a handful of like the same cheddar cheese, but they'd be like, oh, but these are different because I have a different logo.
Yeah, which is the
It
cheddar cheese we have.
because it becomes something where it's like you kind of have like an once like something else. I feel like I'm starting to like lose my train of thought, but it's like you have like when things become like how would I even word it? It's like cultural crowding or something. It's like overcrowded. So it's like no new cheeses for the most part. Like no unique cheeses because you got too many now. You're not gonna have some little town make a cool cheese because that's like the idea that Tanizaki talks about. The it comes from like the necessity of life. All those unique cheeses in France come because all the different places had had like specific ways that they could do cheese in their
Yeah,
circumstance.
like they raised goats and they didn't have cows.
Yeah. Stuff like
So
that.
so the stuff they make comes from goats and it creates like a unique thing.
Yeah.
That is
And so
almost
like the
always like
knowledge of that comes about because of the circumstances and having to deal with the limited nature of. And so in a way it's like how connected things are now. There's a lot of places where it's like, "Oh, well, I'm not limited by just having goats. I can have cows too. No, I'm not going to make goat cheese. I'm going to make cow cheese." But I mean, the nice thing is you can choose to do other things. You have many more options now. But in a way, by having more options, people almost make less interesting decisions. Anyway, it's getting off track.
yeah. I
I don't.
but I guess thanks for joining us on the first go of this.
I'm not knowing what we're doing.
Yeah.
I
I
don't even
just
know how long this has been going.
again there is a part of me that just wants to like ramble and ramble and ramble and make that like the thing.
At like late at night.
Yeah. Rambling late at night.
Reminds me, I need to set my alarm. Will I actually wake up for my alarm this time? Last week I didn't wake up for my alarm. And I almost didn't make it to the farmer's market.
Yeah, we started this because we want to talk about aesthetics, and I guess the idea is that things that we would call local or things that belong to the culture of a specific area are almost always kind of like beautiful and lovely. Um, versus things done on like a gigantic commodity culture kind of scale aren't.
It
And
it
so
loses a charm.
yeah, it loses a charm, and it also loses a certain like, whoa, ah, ow, ooh, T crisis number 2. Nobody died, although my hand got hit by a lot of steam. Yeah. Dude, this tea kettle's on the loose. Here, we put this tea kettle. It's like
Just set it.
okay.
Attack of the tea
Oh
kettle.
my gosh, that was like the Brave Little Toaster horror story unfolding. Um, well, that's not enough water to make any tea. Uh, oh, something about sheets, handmade sheets by grandma. I
Yeah.
don't know.
But yeah, I mean, there's a lot to be said.
Yeah, just
But to me, like the important thing is to take away from the book is to stop and consider things with regards to changes, I guess. Like to be more mindful of things that you do, like about where you are, what that means. I mean, it's a totally different context we live in versus what's written about in the book. But there's a lot to be learned from it for just thinking about the concept of almost like pros and cons of things. It's like, I'd never thought about the pros and cons of a light bulb. Now I do. Now I think about that. It's like, what other things can I think about that with? The possibilities are endless. What does it say? Tea didn't spill. It was mostly just hot water.
although I did take a gulp of tea. Though now I can't have any more because
There's a little bit in that thing.
I don't. I mean, it's okay.
There, I did a slurp. Mm. So, I recommend the book, as we've said a million times.
Join us in 2 weeks for
I don't know what. We didn't think this far ahead.
Calvin and Hobbes. He wouldn't sell out. The story of Bill Watterson.
We might just complain about some ugly buildings.
Yeah,
next
I
time.
mean that's what this should be, right? We got off
We'll
track
find-
with old In Praise of Shadows. We just need to complain about buildings.
Yeah. We maybe we can talk about some of the buildings we talked about before.
Yeah.
Talk about the weird sculptures. IT and Oreos. Oh, it. Is it it or is it IT
Or did he mean to spell T?
or T? Just T.
It's weird to have a chat to interact with, that's for sure. Definitely.
Yeah, I'm not sure how to
Definitely
handle how you approach it. Luckily, it's all people I know.
yeah.
So,
Let's never invite anyone else
I mean, technically, other people could join in. It's public.
if they
Probably nobody would.
probably like getting they'll probably like getting sheets at Target.
They're probably just Target people
Yeah.
and Walmart people. That's kind of cool.
Anyway.
I'm just looking at metrics.
Okay.
Well, is there anything else? Yeah, next week we'll talk. Not next week. Next time, in like 2 weeks, we'll talk about ugly buildings.
It's what everyone came for, right?
That's what you will come for. Is ugly building roasts. I hope somebody's listening to this while squatting at a Japanese outhouse.
And they're
That will
like,
be our goal, is to have somebody doing that while listening. It'll be the equivalent of the rain falling on the off the eaves into the moss and the paving stone.
I think it would take away a little bit. I think not that our voices aren't beautiful, but
We could play some rain sounds in the background.
I think we should. I think we should play rain and then have like it's like rainy in the background and we're having like
Could at least have
our
a
late
third
night radio.
have a third microphone just focused on the tea kettle.
Oh,
So you
yeah.
can hear it
As it like rolls
bubbling.
around the room and attacks us and
Yeah, with the really hot top.
yeah, it tries to
lid.
scald my actually probably succeeded. I think my pinky is modestly burned from the steam.
I've been burned enough at my job. But yeah, we'll roast at least one ugly building, probably more. We'll take recommendations, I guess. Otherwise, we'll talk about probably the Provo City Hall. Or maybe we'll save that for later, because it's like, there's so much to say. I was actually thinking about that yesterday. How horrifying that building is.
Yeah, it's like the the king of all eyesores.
I bet there's uglier buildings, but I'll have to. Yeah, I'll like go around the whole building and just take a bunch of pictures, and then I'll screen share the 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 stuff. The fountain alone.
Yeah, the fountain alone. Yeah, the stupid fountain.
I have a live audience on set.
Yeah, we should have a live audience. Especially, we should do it like a news network where our audience like is like cheering for ideological points we make. You know.
Just have like, or have like random panelists
Oh yeah.
that it's like borderline like, why are they there?
You know, like Bradley, if we were to have Bradley. Whatever. I'm like we can just have everyone who's in the chat right now can just come and we can have like a nice conversation in this like 5 foot by 9 foot room of Phillips with the tea kettle going, which heats things up, and we'll all just be like in here dying.
Yeah. I don't know, it could be nice some days. It can get cold in here. Actually, the other day it was like pretty cold in here, and I just turned my hot plate on to warm it up because I have no temperature control.
Is it especially cold in the areas where there are ghosts?
The whole room, I think the whole office next to mine is full of ghosts.
Yeah, this is so Philip's studio is in the basement of an old.
Who here hasn't been here? I think most of you have.
Yeah, raise your delayed hands.
I think
I don't
only
I don't think
Eliza hasn't been in here. I can't remember if Bradley and Amy have.
I don't think Madeline's been here, has she?
Oh, she might not have.
No.
Why has nobody been here? Yep.
We'll bring little Madeline, and little Madeline we'll just like set her loose.
Like potentially dangerous things.
Yeah, like all these like carving tools and
Yeah, there's
whatnot.
carving tools, scissors, things I don't want messed with,
Yeah,
like special papers.
but I was gonna just paint a picture of this old office building from like the 70s or whenever this. It just feels so old.
It's like it used to be a bank in the 60s.
And every time I walk downstairs, I'm like, I'm gonna get ghosted.
Well, especially going down the hallway to my office or studio.
Because it's dark until the automated light turns on, which is a blaringly bright fluorescent
Oh,
light that but there's nobody there, so suddenly you have like get like liminal spaced by this
yeah,
strange like
yeah, it's kind of creepy.
little.
Yeah, Bradley and Amy haven't been here. Well,
It's pretty
you can
cool.
come over sometime. I just feel like you guys aren't in Provo that often. Yeah, Elliot's been in here. Yukari's been here.
The best part is that you can see all of Philip's cool like printmaking apparatus. Second best part, he's got cool books.
Got Mech Warriors.
Third cool best part is that it's where there's probably ghosts.
Got electrical panels.
Yeah, other than that it's a very small little office in an office building.
Yeah, you have to get on the chat to get invited.
Yeah. You have to
Otherwise,
subscribe. You have to be a gold
you
subscriber.
have to have a gold star.
Yeah.
I don't know how.
Philip moved the
Yukari's been in here. Remember?
Philip,
And
Yucardi's
you're
been dead for years. It's Halloween. I'm like ghost thing.
you're looking at a live picture. It's just this is all an experiment, and I just have that going because
Philip's moved the chat also, so now I can't see it at all.
oh, I'm looking.
I think it's because we were about to wrap this up.
Yeah,
Ring the bell. Wait, ring the bell.
I know.
Wait, Vivaldi is a ghost? Yukari's a ghost. Okay. I was like, yeah, Vivaldi is dead. Oh no, Philip is the ghost. Oh
I'm the ghost.
no. Oh no, huh?
You could have seen the T all along. We just didn't let you.
That's true. You could have seen the
What?
T.
Jason, of course Yukari was here. Her cat was in here too. And you gave me ink stuff. You were literally here. I gave her a banana. I gave her some bread. What else? I was making tea then. I don't remember if you tried any. Anyway,
I know. I know, Amy. I'm Philip's the ghost. People are like, why does that guy go into that old abandoned office building every couple weeks? And I'm like, I have a podcast or something, whatever you
you're
call
just
this.
sitting in a pile of rubble.
Yeah.
Who's Yukari? Hmm. Well, I don't know what you do now.
Uh,
I guess it's just over.
yeah.
We have to stop. I
Bless.
need to sleep. So thanks for stopping by.
And
We need like a song. Like, did Mr. Rogers sing a song at the end? Like a goodbye song?
probably.
Anyway, we'll think of one. It'll be charming, like Mr. Rogers.
We'll just literally have Mr. Rogers. Bye.
Bye. Thanks for joining us. Notice my,
How do you stop it?
I don't know. I feel like my sexy
Oh, before
radio voice is
before we go
wake me up.
for real, yeah, wake me up. This isn't actually the channel that this will normally be done on.
You know,
So
so you can go subscribe right now.
yeah,
Or
we'll send a
whatever.
different link next time. It's just the waiting period to allow you to stream wasn't over for the actual one I wanted to use. So I intend to use this one to do stream like carving linoleum. But I haven't figured out a good way to do that that's like satisfactory yet. So this channel kind of doesn't do much. So it's temporary. Anyway, goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.